Hey everybody, it's Decap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking Rep Paladin, talking about the rework and the current updates that are on the PTR. Now there's all kinds of cool talents that are getting data mined, but I'm going to mostly focus on the things that are on the PTR, and I will talk a little bit about some of the talents maybe. But it's important to note just that some things could be developed or theorized or whatever and put into code, but they may not ever make it to even the PTR, let alone the live game. So I'm not going to get too excited about these abilities, but it is cool to think about as well, and see kind of the direction that they're going. So if you look at the talent tree here on the PTR, under my camera, there's nothing different there really. Seal of Might, yeah, you can see that. So there's not really much different there. The only difference is right here in the middle, and how you get to the middle. So middle bottom. So they have this changed. You'll see Divine Toll and you'll see Divine Resonance. Now this is still on the Ret tree as well. I assume that they're moving it over to the Paladin tree because it was on all the specs and every spec was just taking it. So they're like, it's just a Paladin ability now, which is probably good. That it's basically baseline if you want it, but you don't have to have it. And there's multiple times where you wouldn't really need it in any case. And there's times where you would want it, but everything's going to deal with tuning, like always, or what type of content you're doing. Divine Toll is obviously better in its base form for AoE, for example, than it is for single target, although Divine Resonance isn't bad for single target too. So that's the biggest change. How you get to the middle is different. So you either have to take Divine Purpose or Holy Avenger if you want to get Divine Toll. And then also, like, you can't, before you could kind of scoot around the side and get, you still technically can. Well, no, you can't, because to get Divine Resonance, it obviously feeds off of Divine Toll. You'd have to have Divine Toll. So if you want to have three powerful, the way it's currently set up, three powerful capstones, you would actually take Divine Purpose, Paragon, and Seal of Order. Now for AoE, you don't need Seal of Crusader, for example, so you could actually dump these points into Divine Toll, into Divine Resonance, and then a point into Seal of Might even, for like an AoE build. So like a possible, this would be like a single target build, right? And like a possible AoE build could be something like that, right? So that would be a possible difference there. And that's just the way it's worked right now. This could completely change, right? But I did find it interesting. I also like playing with Divine Purpose. There's no Seraphim. I find that interesting. I don't mind that. I know some Rets will not like that, but the current setup has no Seraphim over here as well. Maybe that'll be a talent put into the Ret tree, or maybe they'll just get rid of it. I'm fine if they do get rid of it. On the Retribution Paladin side, the only thing that, so like literally it's the same exact setup, but the Execution Sentence changes in here. Execution Sentence no longer costs Holy Power, and it's at 30 seconds. So I have like a possible single target build here. The way it works right now, it's also worth noting, if you don't know this, Avenging Wrath currently on the PTR is 1 minute cooldown, and your Crusade, is still a 1 minute cooldown, which is pretty nuts. Execution Sentence comes out every 30 seconds, so you would use this on cooldown, essentially, right? You might want to use it if you're using Execution Sentence. You'd probably use it like into your Crusade a few stacks if Crusade's still the go-to thing, but you would use it into your Crusade, and but pretty much 30-second cooldown. You get two uses, and you could technically get two Execution Sentence per wings, because with single target, especially when you're extending with the Zealot's Paragon. So it's actually pretty cool. I was messing around with it a lot. Now this is all going to be tuning, right? What capstones you choose are all going to be based on tuning, of course. But Execution Sentence is pretty cool to play with. And then I was playing, the way, again, as I mentioned with tuning, right? The way things are right now, Vanguard's momentum is extremely strong. So it makes it, you get extra charges of Hammer of Wrath. You can sit there and spam Hammer of Wrath. You have your damage all amped up. It does extra execute damage, like if the target's below 20% health. Like, it's pretty nutty strong right now, Vanguard's momentum, which I love. I want to play with this. So I kind of have like this Final Verdict Vanguard momentum build with Execution Sentence just for the heck of it. I don't know that that's the best thing. Maybe Execution Sentence isn't even good. Maybe you'd still take Final Reckoning, right? And do a Final Reckoning build into it. That's completely possible. I have no idea. There's no tuning knowledge. There's none of that matters. But just playing with stuff and understanding the interactions. I will say this is extremely fun. With this current build that I have right now, on average I get about 40 to like 43 seconds of wings on average, and it's on a 1 minute cooldown. So I have wings up quite often. Now I have gotten some RNG where I had over 50 seconds of wings on a 1 minute cooldown, and so I don't expect necessarily some of this stuff to go live by any means. Otherwise, we're just gonna have wings up the entire time, which is fun. It makes the gameplay fun, but like if this stuff went live the way it is now, I would expect to see something like Retribution Paladin damage has been nerfed by 20% or something like that, right? Some ridiculous number, because it's really fun, but it's just tons of damage constantly. Like it's just constant mega damage all the time. Like I said, that's really fun to play. But obviously we can't, some people say, well, why can't we? But we can't be doing, just the most insane DPS better than every other single spec and class in the game. Some people probably wish we could, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, or I don't necessarily think it should happen either. But yeah, it's really fun to play right now. I can actually show you a little bit. Let's not apply these changes. I can come in here and show you a little bit about like how nutty this is to play with on the like a single target build here. So I don't have Divine Toll anymore. I don't have I don't have Final Reckoning right now, so it's like way different than on live or whatever. So we're gonna build Crusade stacks. We're just gonna start spamming our Hammer of Wrath to get that out. We're gonna go ahead and use our Execution Sentence now that we have stacks. Again, none of this is perfect. I don't know what the perfect rotation even is. I actually don't have my damage meter loaded, so that's not gonna help at all. But just to show you how fun this is to play, because I think fun matters a lot too. It's worth noting, your Wake of Ashes is a little bit different as well. We can look at that. I have a little bit of lag there. So that one was only 35 seconds, but I did have a random little bit of lag there as well. 35 seconds of wings there. So Wake of Ashes, 30-second cooldown, right? And we still do have Ashes to Dust on here and Radiant Decree as options. But with 30-second cooldown on Wake of Ashes, it makes this Radiant Decree, I don't know what they're going to do with this. I don't know if they're planning on completely reworking the idea of it, kind of morphing Radiant Decree and Wake of Ashes and Truce Wake into one thing, instead of making it like all these different things. Maybe that's the way they're looking to go there. But this current setup is quite fun. I wouldn't mind playing the way it is right now. Obviously with the redone talent tree and tuned correctly, and tuned to be at least somewhat strong. It's actually quite fun. So that's like a possibility of a single target build. The multi-target build I would expect to be, largely the same. Except for since you don't have what could be awkward, and why I think it's going to be, like I said, a complete rework here at the bottom. So with being able to take Divine Toll on the Paladin side, the only thing for AoE that you would need to take as far as capstones is Final Reckoning. And other than that, I guess you would try to come down and do like Executioner's Wrath to do like AoE damage to stuff. It would be like a very strong cleave spec to nearby enemies within 8 yards. So it's like maybe that's the route they're going. I do think they want Executioner Sentence to be played at least, and that's why they took away the Holy Power cost. By taking away the Holy Power cost too, it's worth saying that kind of like is like having Ringing Clarity back, right? So you have 5 Holy Power, you press it, you don't lose anything, and you can immediately spend into it, right? So you don't go down to 2 and then have to spend just to put something into it, where you might normally press your Divine Toll and get back up to 5 or something like that, or your Wake of Ashes to get to 5. It is different in that way, and so it does feel very usable. Like if it goes live with 0 Holy Power spent, it's kind of like I almost couldn't imagine a time where you wouldn't want to use it, as long as it's tuned somewhat correctly. Because again, it's just extra damage that you're getting just for pressing a button. It doesn't cost you any of your resources. So I'm very excited about all this stuff. Just because at least the single target feels really fun to play. The AoE, like I said, there's nothing other than doing like an Executioner's Wrath build. So you would go like, you would get rid of these, and then you would go Executioner's Wrath, and then you would go Final Reckoning. And then even then, so then you go Legacy. And so this would kind of be the only current AoE build with the talents given or whatever. And so, and this could be fun and good as well. But this is just so far away from being done. This is months away from being done. But this is where we are right now. I like the direction of it. I like moving the Divine Toll to this side, and I like getting rid of Seraphim. So, hate on the for that if you like, but I like that personally. I think that could make this our actual threat side a little bit more interesting by having Divine Toll be baseline, because we're always taking it, right? In every single build, we're taking Divine Toll, and we're pretty much taking Final Reckoning for every build too. So it's like everything's the same. If we could get a little bit of variation at least, so like single target, we take this, and then multi-target, we take Final Reckoning. I'm fine with that. With current tuning, maybe still we would take Final Reckoning with single target, but I would love to see the execution sentence tuned in a way to where execution sentence is better than Final Reckoning for single target. That's me personally. Again, I don't expect everyone to necessarily agree with that. Final Reckoning is a 1 minute cooldown. It lines up if Avenging Wrath does stay at 1 minute, it does line up with it every single time. You use your Avenging Wrath and Final Reckoning. So you would use it at the same time with it. You get your stacks, use your Final Reckoning with it every single time. So it'd still probably be pretty strong. It'll especially be strong for AoE though. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the talents that they have brought up. A lot of this stuff seems to be increasing the range of Paladins. I talked about this a little bit in the other video, mid-range Rat Pally. They have scaled that back a little bit, like the Final Verdict. They increased it to 20 yards, and now it's back down to 12 yards for Final Verdict, which I'm fine with that. And then like some of the other abilities were like, during Avenging Wrath, all of your abilities have super long range. Your Blade of Justice has a longer range. Your melee range is slightly longer. Everything's slightly bigger range. I do think that they are probably going to keep exploring that, but they're also but my theory on that was to make up for our lack of movement, and maybe they're scaling back the idea of making us mid-ranged and are giving us movement, because there was a heroic leap type ability that was data mined. However, this ability is like roughly made for a lot of different classes. Like it's not even set. Like it's called like Wings of something, and it seems very Paladin-y. But I guess it's like data mined into the Priest, into Demon Hunters as well. But it's basically a heroic leap style ability that would give us a little bit of extra movement speed to be able to have like an instant movement speed. That's not just a increase like our trusty little horses. So I am very excited about that as well. For me personally, what do I want personally? I want mobility, I want survival, and then I just want the class to be fun, because everything else is going to do with tuning, right? I think too often we get fixated on, well, I want to have the strongest abilities that do the strongest damage in the entire game, but all that's based on tuning. Execution Sentence could be the strongest ability in the game if they wanted it to be. That would be based on tuning, and I think I just want to be tuned correctly, but I want survival and mobility, and I think that they are working towards that. Whether it's by making us mid-range so we have less far to run out of mechanics, whether it's giving us a heroic leap ability, whether it's making some people are thinking they might make Divine Protection baseline, then we still have Shield of Vengeance, so giving us an extra defensive cooldown, things like that. I would love to see Forbearance getting taken out of the game. I've talked about this before, so that way, how many times are things going terribly and you bubble or something like that, or what normally happens for me is I'm trying to save my bubble for a more important moment, so I lay on hands. I'm at like 5% health, I lay on hands, and then another thing just happens and I get a mechanic or something, and there's no way to live it. It's a sketchy pull as it is, but it's one of those things where you don't want to die during the pull, and you can't even use your bubble because you have Forbearance. I hate that. Or, the Holy Paladin, lay on hands on you, and then you can't use your own bubble. I hate Forbearance personally. I would love to see that removed. I know it's class fantasy in some ways, but just, it's just a punishment that other specs don't have. So I would love to see that removed personally. But yeah, I'm super excited about this stuff, guys. As we get more set information, like more stuff added to the PTR, I'll do more videos. I'll talk about it more. And obviously I'm going to keep updating as well. But yeah, this is just a little update video. Not a ton to talk about. Mostly the Divine Toll change, Seraphim gone, Divine Purpose meta, some things like that. Or kind of like the highlights of this. And then just a really fun single target build if they let this go live. If they keep Vanguard's momentum, doesn't have to be this strong, but if they keep it quite strong, you could definitely see this become the meta over here, which is what I wanted anyway. So I would love to see that. So that's it for this one, though. hopefully more stuff to come soon. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.